Hi, how are you? First of all, I would love to have some feedback on the meditation I did last week because, I get so excited about these things because I'm like, this is amazing, but I don't really know how helpful it is for you. I feel like for me, guided meditations are amazing and they really help me, but I don't know if this was helpful or I should just quit doing that and let you guys, listen to proper meditation teachers. So let me know. That would be amazing. Like you can leave a comment on YouTube or you can leave a comment in the podcast show notes or just send me a message on email. I would love to hear back like how it was for you or if there's anything you would like me to change. Because since I'm like spending this time doing this, I'd love to make something that's actually helpful. And today I want to talk about something that I think I don't say enough. I think it's something that I really, really want to emphasize, and it is getting your facts right. So let me explain. When I first started out coaching, I remember people would come to me with their stories, for example, oh my God, I make so many mistakes as a vet, or I have so many complaints. And in the beginning, as a coach, you don't realize that what the brain tells us is not necessarily the truth. It might more be a story we are making out about the truth, right? So I would completely believe what they were saying. And we would spend maybe half an hour coaching on like all these mistakes and what, and I would believe it. I was thinking, I'm be like, oh my God, if you make that many mistakes, as a vet, like how does that affect you? This and the other. And then at some point, I might then ask, way like into the coaching session, and how many mistakes are we actually talking about? And then it would be like two in 10 years, or, one complaint in 5 years. I don't know. Like, so it really taught me to get my facts right. And just lately, I've had a few coaching sessions. So, obviously, like I do CPDs because I want to keep being like a good vet and always become better on that. So I do like my veterinary CPD, but also as coach, I also want to always make sure, I get better and that I don't like drop into like making mistakes that are just not great. So I exchange coaching sessions with other coaches that I studied with. And I was coaching another coach she's a coach on overeating. So she coaches people that binge eat and have really, really issues with this. And she was having problems selling her coaching because she's like, yeah, because I can't really guarantee the results. And, if they ask me, can I stop binge eating? Can I really help? Can they really stop doing it? And then I actually made her, like, I'm like, pull down your numbers. Like, how many people have you actually helped? Like, of your clients, like, how many have actually? And it was like 70% had completely stopped binge eating. 20% was still kind of in the process. They were still being coached by her. They hadn't stopped completely binge eating, but they were feeling a lot better. And then there were 10% that just like, they kind of was hoping she would just give them like a magic button and just stop overeating, and that didn't work. And I'm like, those numbers are amazing. And as soon as we looked at them, she's like, oh, no, I can totally sell this because I like that is amazing, right? And another example, like I could have spent so much time coaching her on like overcoming, really truly believe you can help people when actually she does help people. She doesn't need to work on the belief, right? And I was coaching a vet that runs her own business. So she does home visits. She's an equine vet. And she was really worried about, oh my God, because there was one client that had been unhappy once. And what if now, like, I end up not having any clients, or they all, like, I end up living under the bridge, And I was like, well, how many clients have you actually got? Like, how many clients have you signed in this year since you left the practice and you started your own? And how much money have you made? And then we actually just sat down and looked at the numbers. And it was just amazing. She had like way over 300 like steady clients and was making like she ended up closing the year with so much money she actually had to go out and spend some because she has so much tax to pay. And and this is what I want to emphasize with you, like how quick our brains are to latch onto like some random data that are not even real and just run with it. And this is the story now. So that let's say you had a surgery that didn't go well. Let's say that you did a surgery, you did some sort of procedure, and now there's a post-op complication. So let's say maybe you did some work on a joint, and now there's like an infection, or you did a spey and the sutures came out, or whatever it is. You did something, and there's a complication to it, and now your brain will like just batter you down with how bad you are doing this, and it will just like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like getting like this cloud comes down over us where we only can see this complication and how we did this wrong and we should have done this other thing and why didn't we do this and we should have, prepared the owner better and what have we done this instead. And we make it into such a huge problem. And then people come to me and I need coaching because I'm such a bad vet, and it's a bit like, well, how many post-op complications do you have? What are we talking about? Is it like a couple of weeks? How much do you actually operate? And it's maybe like 1 in 12 years. And I'm like, I mean, statistically, that is not bad, right? So you got to, once you notice that you start getting agitated, upset, frustrated, anxious about something, like, just check your facts, write them down. I don't know. This is like the episode 101. I'm so proud I got to 100 episodes. But if you remember episode one, I explained the model, which I was taught in the life coach school, which is you have a circumstance, right? Which is completely neutral and completely factual. So the sun is shining, the dog died, I have a car, whatever it is, like a fact that happened. And then you have your thoughts around this fact. And then this thought makes you feel a certain way, and then you take actions from that feeling, and then you create your results for yourself, which is amazing. But where people often go wrong is that they think that their thoughts are the facts, which is not true. And I'm telling you, when you beat yourself up and you say to yourself, oh, I'm so scatty, oh, I'm not really good at concentrating, oh, I'm a procrastinator, oh, I'm not really good at bit space, oh, I really hate dentals, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm too slow at that, people think I'm this, people believe I'm that, all these things. We think that that's just a fact, that you're stating a fact. Like, for example, oh, I'm not earning enough money. Well, how much are you earning? And you're actually managing then to cover your bills and save up and you're investing and you're like, I don't know, going on holidays and you're like, oh, okay, so maybe I do have enough money. You know what I mean? So we state these things and we are so convinced that that's just what it is, and we just run with that story. And it's a bit like if you were a journalist and you did that, imagine that, like, oh, you just like hear a rumor and then like you put it on the first page of your newspaper, no? Or if you were a scientist and then you're testing, I don't know, like ketamine on rats, and then one rat falls asleep out of 100 and you just look at that rat and you're like, oh, ketamine makes rats fall asleep. It's funny because like as vets, we completely know, like, when you do a study as a scientist, like you have like a minimal number you want to do it on. You have like a placebo, you have blinds, all this. But when it's ourselves, when we're in our own brains, we just take like this random pilot project and we think that that is a research. That is like the data we're going to run with. So whatever you're telling yourself right now that you are bad at, that you're not good at, that you think people think of you, that whatever it is, that's not making you feel good, you want to check those data. You really want to sit down and you want to write it down, like write it out. I just have so many complaints. I am just not good at this. I am just not good at that. So what does that actually mean? So let's look at, for example, if you have the bit space is just something that comes up so often. But for example, if you say, I'm just not good at bit space. So what is it you're not good at? What are you not good at? Are you not good at cutting with a scalpel? Can you not? Does it take you really long to find the ovaries? But how long does it take you? Or do you really hesitate when you have to cut the ligament? But what does that mean? Like, what do you actually, every time you spay, you accidentally nick the ovarian or the uterine artery and they bleed and it's a huge disaster every time? Like, what do you mean when you say you're not good at them? Because if you go into the operation with that thought, I'm not really good at this, and I always I'm too slow, but you haven't actually looked at the facts. You go in with such hesitation and such self-doubt that it makes it into a terrible experience for you, and you will then struggle to learn and get better at it because you always go in with this level of terror of doing something wrong, no? And who was I coaching the other day? So I was coaching another vet the other day that had some wildlife in, and she was like, yeah, because I'm not really used to wildlife, and there's another vet that's much better at it, and I had expected these of some sort of like baby birds. And she had looked at them and she was like really busy. Actually, I did this mistake as well, but let me first finish with this one. So she quickly looked at these little things, and she was like, oh, no broken wings, no like blood. They seem like they weigh okay. Okay, so let's put them in a kettle and see what happens. And then the other vet came in and he's like, no, but look, like they have bald patches, their feathers are just not growing right. So these are sick, we better put them to sleep. And she felt so bad. She's like, oh my God, I should have looked so much better at them, and I should have realized, and he's so much better than me. And I'm like, yeah, no, because like often when you get wildlife in or you get something in that's run over, the first thing you assess is like vitals. Is this like, has it got like a broken spine? Is it an inner bleed, something really terrible? And then you kind of let them sit a bit with it, don't you? Like kind of observe, like, are they eating? What are they doing? And then kind of like you reassess maybe next day or later on in the day. And I'm like, that was the second assessment he did. So this story you're telling yourself is not a fact. And I actually made a mistake. So we got, I think it was a red kite in the last weekend of night. Oh my God, I just rubbed my eyes and I've been chopping chilies this morning because Jamie Oliver says you should eat chilies for breakfast. So I did that and they were like extremely strong and I just rubbed my eyes. So if I start crying, not because I'm sad, it's just like I'm in extreme ocular pain. Um, how was it? So we were really busy, and a member of the public brought a red kite in, wrapped in this jacket. And so luckily, I did a rotation of exotics in Colorado State University when I was a student. And one thing I know about like big birds like this, I don't go near their claws, right? That was something I learned. So, I know sort of to handle them. So big gloves, and I was looking at, are they grabbing with their feet? Is there blood around the mouth? Does it feel like heavy? Has it got like all the wings in place? I was stretching the wings out, no blood, no fractures of that I could see. It just seemed like completely knackered. So I just stuck it in an oxygen tent and thought like, because we had so many emergencies going on, I'm like, do it out, in there. I can't see any obvious injuries. And then luckily next day the nurses managed to arrange it getting picked up together with the badger babies. I also saw that night. It was a crazy wildlife night. And this bird got taken to the bird center. And then we got slightly I guess let's say constructive feedback from the wildlife center that I had missed that this bird had like it had two bite wounds in the top of the wing, like you could see when you really separate the feathers. And I remember having that initiative hit of like, oh shit, I missed that, oh my God. And then I was like, no, it's fine. Like if I like that was the second assessment. Like I assessed and made sure this bird doesn't have to be put down straight away because it's got an obviously horrible broken wing or something terribly wrong with it. So I just like if it survives on oxygen overnight, then it's worth then doing a second assessment, which this woman in this wildlife center then did. So I didn't take her criticism personally in a way like, oh my God, I'm a terrible vet. I don't know how to assess birds, even if I actually learned back in the day. No, like look at the facts. Like instead of just running with this first story your brain introduces you with, which is like, oh my God, you're so bad at assessing and you were not thorough enough. And what kind of vet are you? And can you not even do a clinical exam? No, you did your initial clinical exam. You made sure there was no reason to kill it straight away. It has some sort of chance, and then you kind of leave it, you move on, do something else, and then you come back to it. And that is perfectly fine. But isn't it funny how our brains come with this other random story and saying you're a terrible vet and you're not thorough and you don't know how to do a proper clinical exam? And what have you got your hands and eyes for, right? So this is something I really, really want you to think about. If you have some stories in your head that you think are not stories, and this is why coaching is so important because it's so fucking hard to do this by yourself. Just like the coach I was coaching, she was so convinced that she could not prove that she was actually helping people, and it was so evident to me. I'm like, but you just look at your numbers. Like, how many clients finished with you and are actually no longer overeating? Let's just look at the numbers. And she'd not done that. And I'm like, it's so obvious, but we don't. Because our brains are so busy, elaborating this complicated story about how you're not as good as you think you might be. And it's just really interesting to me. And this comes back to the word metacognition, which I learned listening to a podcast. So Brené Brown right now has a podcast with Adam Grant, who wrote Think Again. I just love those two. And they were talking about metacognition, and they were using the example of, and I think I have mentioned her before, now I cannot remember her name, but there was a really famous, incredibly young, incredibly beautiful, incredibly smart, funny female skier that won something at the Olympics. And she was being interviewed. I think I said Michelle Hu, something Hu. She's half Chinese, half American, I think. And she's like doing all these amazing things. And somebody said to her, do you think before you speak in the nicest way possible? The question was placed because you answer so eloquently and so wisely in like as soon as you get the question, like how do you even do this? Now, how can you elaborate and answer so quickly after having a question? And so Brené Brown was pulling this interview apart with Adam Grant, and they were talking about metacognition. And metacognition is when you have a really great awareness of what your brain is doing. So the most of us, we have like zero metacognition. We just go through life. Shit happens to us, and our brain happily makes up stories around this. Oh my God, I was like beaten as a child, so that means I'm a people pleaser, and I will always be sad, and I will never know how to, um, I don't know, have a healthy relationship. And we just run with that, and that is the story. Or I'm just a procrastinator. I'm really bad at stuff. I can never get things done. That's just who I am. Or oh my God, I failed so big as a vet. I didn't do a proper clinical exam, like I'm failing everybody. Like we have these stories that our brains just make up randomly from, you know, from old patterns we have, and we have no idea what we're actually doing. And in order to become the person you really want to be, in order to become the vet you want to be, in order to live the life you really want to live, you can get that with metacognition. If you are constantly course correcting what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, not in that order, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing, that is how you can constantly course correct your life and correct who you are as a person, no? And it doesn't matter what age you do this at, like you can literally rewire your neural pathways by doing this, like by recognizing, oh my God, like the last 20 years, I have been beating myself up. I've been telling myself I'm not good enough. I have just accepted I'm not a confident person. That was my story for a long time as well. It was like, I'm just not confident enough. And I so remember still being coached by Brooke Castillo, who was like the owner and CEO of the life coach school. And I was like, oh my God, she's coaching me, super coach. And she's like, and so what? Like, why are you telling yourself that you're not confident? And I'm like, you what? Like, can you just, like, that's just who I am. She's like, no, that's just something you're telling yourself. And my brain just broke there, you know, and you're just like, what? I've always believed this. And the same, like when I became, it took me a long time to accept, like, I'm actually a real vet. I'm actually, you know, I am the adult in the room. I am the one that is capable of making decisions. I am good enough as a vet. That took me a long time to accept, you know, and get over the story that I wasn't good enough. And there was always another vet that could do it better than me. And then like becoming a coach and going through the whole fucking process again, you know, and I'm a good enough coach. And when will I know if I'm good enough? And what if I'm not good enough and I do the wrong thing? And the coach just said to me, you just decide that you're good enough. It's just a decision you make. Like who decides? Like you, when you don't have parameters, you just decide you're good enough. And it's these decisions we make every day, these like incredibly conscious decision of how do I want to show up to work today? How do I want to let the client's words affect me when they tell me I'm not good enough? I'm just in it for the money. Am I just gonna like grab my phone and mindlessly scroll and get angry and frustrated over all these posts about like vets are just in it for the money and what the hell, you know, like how much are you actually stopping and seeing what am I thinking, what am I feeling, what am I doing, how is this affecting my life? No. And so I'm completely nerding out on this concept of metacognition, but I think the first part of it, no matter what, is getting your facts right, not accepting the story your brain is telling you. And and to me, like when I was in the life coach school and I was doing my coaching certification, we had to self-coach every day. And I say this to all my clients, and I know a lot of you guys will struggle with journaling because and self-coaching because it is just not fun. Like once you sit down and you open that Pandora's box of self-loathing and self-doubt and am I good enough, you don't really want to look at it. It feels much more comfortable to just buffer and do something else or keep working or oh let me study some more. And I think that's why a lot of us love learning so much, both because we want to become better, but it's also actually a buffer. And it stops us from sitting down and actually feel what we're feeling, accepting who we are in this moment and accepting what we're thinking, right? And so it took me I had 18 months where I had to every day sit down and write down, what are you thinking? Why are you thinking this? How is this affecting you? Do you want to think something else? What are you feeling? No. And sometimes I hated it, but because in the life coach school, and also when I took my master coach certification as well, you had to like present yourself coaching, which is, I'm telling you, this is no fun. This is no fun. Like opening up and telling your innermost, most darkest secrets and fears and desires and self like criticism to others, it's not the most fun thing in the world, but it has brought me to a level of metacognition that now when shit happens, when people say things to me, when I am in situations that are complicated, when something goes wrong, when I make mistakes, I can like quickly recognize, oh wait, no, like I made a mistake, that's true, this is terrible. what can we do to correct it? What can I do to not happening again? And why did this happen? No, and like taking responsibility for what I do, but not using it against myself to show myself how a terrible vet I am. So this last week we were so busy and I did make mistakes. So I failed to see this injury on the red kite. And then there was a dog where I was given, what the fuck was it? We had a ton of HGE patients in gastroenteritis, and we were giving like metoclopramide drips and ondansetron and this and the other, and I'm like so in with ondansetron right now. So if anyone is listening and you're not happen to not be a vet, it's like an anti-nausea medication. And I don't know in your practice, but in my practice, the metoclopramide and the ondansetron are next to each other, and they are the fucking same color. Like literally, the boxes and the ampoules are the vials are the same color. So I happily gave a dog that was already on a metoclop CRI. I then thought I was going to give it an ondansetron loading dose, and I gave it another metoclop dose on top because they were like different. And they were not. I was just so busy, and we didn't have a veterinary assistant in to help us. So I was just trying to do five things at the same time. And I made a mistake. And obviously in that moment, it hits you. You're like, oh my God, if this had been another drug, I could have fucking killed that dog. No, and luckily it wasn't. So like quickly recognize, like checking in with my nurse, checking the secondary effect, like checking on the dog, everything was fine. And then I'm like, oh my God, why did this happen? Gunilla, you're being too busy. You're doing too much stuff. Like you need to because I love helping my nurses out, and when we don't have an assistant in that can do the cleaning, take the payments, take the phone, and all that, I will like spread out a bit and do that work with the nurse because to me it's like we have to help each other. But I realized I was doing too much of that, and it was stretching my veterinary brain, my clinical brain too much. So I had to take a step back from that and just like chill a bit more. And then we would just have to leave cleaning and some stuff for the people next day. Sometimes we would have to send clients away because it was just we did not have the capacity, because I want to help everybody. But I recognize this mistake was a symptom of me being too busy and too distracted, because we were being too busy. It also then I was like, okay, so this is what happened. This is why it's happened. I take responsibility. Let's check the dog is okay, which it was absolutely fine. And then next day, I pointed it out to my clinical team, like the day team. I said, this has to change. We knew you have to put like labels on these so we don't mistake these medications one from each other again. No, so like, but it's going through that process and not beating myself up. I think if I'd killed the dog, if I'd given it, I don't know, methadone or something else that hadn't killed it, I would probably feel a lot worse. Nothing happened and I was lucky, but obviously when you make a mistake that could potentially have killed an animal, that's not great. But it's like, oh, it happened, fully acknowledge, accept it's happened, take responsibility, and then look at why did it happen and what can we do differently next time. It was just like the whole process just happened really quickly because I've got this level of metacognition, no? And this means like, and I think a lot of vets think that the more they beat themselves up and the more they like put pressure on themselves and the more they're like, you shouldn't have done this, you're not a good enough vet. What? Like they think the better they become. But I find, and it's proven as well, like the less pressure we put on ourselves like that and the more we're able to accept, take responsibility, recognize, but without the beating ourselves up, the better we can move on and learn much quicker because we not being in that place of terror and defensiveness of like, oh my God, I'm so terribly bad. Everybody's going to find out now. I'm going to be blamed. All this is going to happen. If you can shut that down and instead just be more neutral about it, you can actually learn so much more, make decisions. Because imagine if I had had a lot of fear and a lot of self-doubt and a lot of like, oh my God, always thinking they're going to find out how bad I am, I might not have acknowledged this mistake because nothing happened. And obviously, metoclopramide, you can probably give quite a big overdose without anything happening. I could have kept my mouth shut and I could just have kept an eye on the dog, make sure it was okay, and then only admitted to my mistake if something happened, right? Out of fear of backlash, of having problems, or people thinking I was stupid or whatever, no? But because I was absolutely okay with making a mistake in the sense, like, I accept this has happened, like, it's terrible, it shouldn't have happened, but it did, then we were able to take steps for it not to happen again, right? Because I can tell the clinical team, the hospital team, look, we need to change these boxes, you need to put labels on, tape on, green tape, something, so we can easily separate them because they shouldn't be put together like this. This is why it happened. If you can't take responsibility for your mistake and accept it in a way that you can actually then expose solutions and what happened, then things are not going to get any better, right? You can't improve things and you can't improve yourself. This is when people talk about psychological safety at the workplace as well, but the psychological safety starts within yourself, and absolutely knowing that you're good enough vet, that you making a mistake does not mean that you're a terrible person. A terrible vet is not that you're letting everybody down. There was a cause behind this mistake, and why did it happen? How can we make sure it doesn't happen again? So, so that was a bit about that, like getting your facts right, and try to strive for a level of metacognition where you are actually fully aware of what's going on inside of you and be acceptant of that, and taking responsibility for yourself. And this is such a big work, in the sense that the more you do this, the more you can like write down what you're thinking, accept what you're thinking, looking at it. Why am I thinking like this? What is the story behind it? How do I want to think going forward? How do I want to feel about this? It sounds like hard work and it's not fun to initiate, but the more you do it, the much better life you have because you can do so much with it, right? You can do so much more when you are in a grounded place where you know your circumstances, you know your facts, you know what you think about them, and you are constantly course correcting based on that. All right. So I'll leave that with you. Let me know how this went for you, what you thought about this episode, and please give me feedback on the meditation. I would love that, just so I know. Like, even if you thought it was crap, just let me know because then I just won't do it again. And for the people on YouTube, I don't know if you checked my tank top, which is like stethoscope down, yoga up from Vet Yogi. Like I'm friends with Chloe, who is the founder of Vet Yogi. I'm not sponsored by them. I bought this in the Congress, but just to let you know, we're the ones who are going to do the retreat together. And if you haven't checked Vet Yogi out yet, their platform, they have yoga for vets and products and stuff and meditations as well. So their meditations is probably much better than mine because I actually trained in it. All right. Right. All the best. Have a great week. I love you all. Bye.